Today is Friday, March 6th, 2026. And I want you to picture just a massive glowing countdown clock ticking away right in front of you. Exactly 208 days from today, on September 30, 2026, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act expires.
Yeah.
We are talking about literally the largest infrastructure spending bill in American history, and, the music is about to stop.
It's a phenomenal amount of capital, really, and that 208-day window is absolute. There is no pushing it back. The urgency of this timeline was actually brought into sharp focus for us by analytic reports from Smart Business Automator. They've been tracking these exact funding timelines, and the data paints a very clear picture of a window that is just rapidly slamming shut.
Right. And as a quick note for you listening, this deep dive is actually powered by Smart Business Automator. They provide AI-powered workflow automation that kills the busy work so you can scale. And right now, scaling and positioning are exactly what we need to talk about. This deep dive is essentially your masterclass and your survival guide rolled into one. Our mission today is to unpack a massive stack of research and briefing notes detailing exactly how mid-sized contractors can capture these remaining infrastructure dollars before that clock hits zero. Because if you wait until the summer, you are already too late. Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the sheer scale of the situation.
Right, the numbers are huge.
They really are. $249 billion has already been committed by states to over 113,000 individual projects. But what does that actually look like on the ground?
What's really fascinating here is the distribution of that capital. When most of us hear the word infrastructure, our immediate thought is usually, just paving highways or pouring concrete for bridges.
Our asphalt and rebar.
Exactly. And while transportation is absolutely dominating the landscape with $209.1 billion, it is not just roads and bridges. The money is flowing aggressively into water infrastructure, massive broadband rollouts, and huge electric grid upgrades.
Oh.
Yeah. For example, the Corps of Engineers is already preparing for WRDA 2026, which is the Water Resources Development Act. That's opening up a completely parallel funding stream for dredging, flood control, and port improvements.
That is a massive pie. But I was looking at the geographic opportunity mapping provided by Smart Business Automator, and the disparity between states was wild.
It's completely uneven.
Right. Some states are sitting on mountains of cash they haven't deployed, while others are completely tapped out.
Precisely. And that's the aha moment here. The secret for you as a contractor listening to this isn't just knowing that this historic funding exists out there in the ether. It is knowing exactly where it is moving locally.
Local intelligence is everything.
Yes. Not all sectors, and definitely not all states, are equal in this final sprint. If you are operating in a region that has already drained its allocations, you might be gearing up for a fight over scraps. But if you are in a state that was slow to design and bid their projects, there is a tsunami of work about to hit the street.
So we have this massive sprint for the next 208 days. But what happens on day 209?
That's the terrifying part.
It is. The briefing notes we are reviewing point to a terrifying drop-off. The Congressional Budget Office is projecting a $149.7 billion shortfall in surface transportation revenue over the 5 years immediately following the expiration of the IIJA.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the looming cliff is severe. To put that $149.7 billion shortfall into perspective, imagine an entire state's Department of Transportation simply halting all new projects for half a decade.
Just totally shutting down.
That is the scale of the revenue gap. The Highway Trust Fund, which is the traditional engine for federal road money, might not even have sufficient funds to operate by fiscal year 2028.
That is staggering. A total funding cliff. How is the industry reacting to this? Are people just bracing for impact, or?
They are mobilizing aggressively. The construction industry sees the cliff approaching very clearly. The Associated General Contractors of America, the AGC, just launched a $2 million campaign called America's Moving Forward.
$2 million.
Yeah. They aren't just sending out newsletters, they are actively running targeted digital ads in Texas and Missouri as we speak.
Why those specific states, though?
Because they are targeting key congressional districts, they are trying to apply voter pressure to push for reauthorization before the September deadline, and they are expanding to other states this spring. The industry is panicking because they know the next bill, even if it passes, may be significantly leaner.
And we are seeing some legislative movement in the notes, too. There's the Basics Act, that's H.R. 7437, which focuses specifically on bridge repairs. It seems to be one of the few bipartisan proposals gaining traction right now. But, and just to be clear for everyone listening, we don't have a horse in this race.
Right, absolutely not.
We aren't endorsing the AGC's campaign, taking a political stance on the Basics Act, or arguing for or against government spending. We're just reading the weather report on what the lobbying groups and lawmakers are doing, so you know which way the wind is blowing.
Exactly. Our only goal is to impartially report on the landscape as it exists. You need to understand the environment you're operating in to make strategic decisions.
So what does this all mean for the mid-sized contractor? Let's say I own a heavy civil firm. We do 10 to 20 million a year in revenue, and I want a piece of this final IIJA wave. How do I actually win this work? The market intelligence outlines some major prime directives, but it sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare.
It starts with the harsh reality of pre-qualification. Most mid-sized firms fail to capture these dollars because they stumble at the very first hurdle. They aren't pre-qualified.
It's really barrier number one.
It is barrier number one for federal and state work. It is an exhaustive audit of your finances, your safety record, your equipment fleet, and your past performance. If you aren't properly pre-qualified with the specific agency letting the work, you don't even get to sit at the table. They won't even open your bid envelope.
Okay, so let's say I spend the weeks gathering the paperwork and I get pre-qualified. Am I at the finish line? Can I just bid and build?
Not even close. That's just the starting gun. Now you have to deal with strict, non-negotiable prerequisites. You have to ensure Davis-Bacon wage compliance, which means paying prevailing wages.
Wait, I see Davis-Bacon mentioned constantly in these reports. For a mid-sized contractor who usually does private commercial work, how big of a shock to the system is federal wage compliance? Can't I just pay my crew their normal hourly rate?
No, you absolutely cannot. Davis-Bacon requires you to pay the locally prevailing wage and fringe benefits for corresponding work on similar projects in the area. But the real headache isn't just the pay rate, it's the reporting.
The paperwork.
Yes, you have to submit weekly certified payrolls. If you make a mistake, or if a subcontractor under you makes a mistake, the federal government can withhold your payments or even debar you from future federal work. It requires a level of administrative overhead that many mid-sized shops simply do not have.
That sounds incredibly risky if you don't have a dedicated compliance officer. And then the notes also highlight Buy America requirements.
Right. Buy America means you must strictly source domestic materials. Iron, steel, manufactured products, and construction materials all have to be produced in the United States. In our current environment, we all know that can be a massive supply chain headache. You have to track the origin of every bolt and beam.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If all of that administrative burden sounds like too much, there's a massive strategic pivot outlined in the data. A subcontractor loophole, if you will.
I love this part.
Right. You do not need to be a prime contractor to win big in this final 208-day sprint. Look at the specific example the research provides. Tudor Perini. They are a massive infrastructure prime, and they're currently sitting on a jaw-dropping $20.6 billion backlog. $20.6 billion.
This raises an important question. What does a prime do with a backlog that size? To put $20.6 billion into perspective, if Tudor Perini didn't win another single contract starting today, they have enough work to keep their crews running 24/7 for years. They are physically incapable of doing all that work themselves with their own internal workforce.
So what happens? Do they just delay the projects?
They panic and then they hire. Primes are drowning in work right now. They desperately need reliable subcontractors across literally every single trade earthwork, concrete, electrical, paving, you name it. The strategy for the mid-sized contractor isn't necessarily to compete with a behemoth like Tudor Perini, it's to partner with them.
Okay, but how does a mid-sized shop actually approach a prime with a $20 billion backlog? What does that conversation even look like?
You don't just cold call and ask for work. You approach them as a solution to their massive headache.
Yeah.
You need to build relationships with their regional estimators and project managers. You bring them your pristine safety records, your EMR or experience modification rate needs to be stellar because a prime will not take on your safety risk.
That makes sense.
Right, you show them your financial stability and you say, I see you just won these 4 bridge projects in this county. You don't have the manpower to pour the concrete on all 4 simultaneously. I do. Put me on your preferred list.
I love that. You don't have to win the massive federal contract yourself and deal with all the prime level administration. You just need to be the reliable, safe, compliant subcontractor that the big prime calls when they realize they have more work than they can handle.
Exactly. And if you do want to bid directly, or even if you just want to make yourself incredibly attractive to those primes, you need to understand how to level the playing field. Smaller firms can bypass the massive crushing competition by utilizing federal set-asides.
Yes, the set-asides.
Yeah.
The data we're looking at shows this is a huge advantage. We're talking about disadvantaged business enterprise, or DBE goals, the SBA 8A business development program, and hubby zone preferences. How do these actually work in practice?
Federal infrastructure projects have mandatory goals for utilizing businesses with these specific designations. A prime contractor bidding on a $100 million highway project might be legally required to award, say, 15% of that contract value to certified DBE firms.
Wow.
Yeah. If they don't meet that goal or show absolute good faith efforts to meet it, they can lose the contract.
So if you qualify as a DBE, the prime contractor actually needs you to win the job. The competition pool shrinks dramatically because you aren't competing against every contractor in the state. You are only competing against the handful of other certified DBEs in your specific trade.
Precisely. Now, navigating the qualifications for those specific set-asides can be complex and highly bureaucratic. But again, this is where the data from Smart Business Automator is vital.
Right.
Their market intelligence tracks these exact set-aside opportunities by region. If you hold one of these certifications, having that data gives you a massive strategic edge because you can pinpoint exactly which local projects are legally required to utilize your specific business profile. You aren't guessing, you are targeting.
That is huge. But whether you are going after set-asides, acting as a sub for a massive prime, or bidding as a prime yourself, the briefing notes make one thing abundantly clear. Everything eventually comes back to what they call the bonding bridge.
The bonding bridge is critical. You cannot ignore this if you want infrastructure money. Infrastructure work requires bonding, period. A surety company has to guarantee to the government that you will finish the work and pay your subs, or the surety will foot the bill.
Right.
And your bonding capacity is tied directly, inextricably, to your company's financial health. You cannot fake your way into a higher bonding capacity.
The research gives us a very specific, actionable financial to-do list that you need to execute right now. Contractors must clean up their WIP, that's your work in progress schedules. You have to reduce your DSO, your days sales outstanding, and you have to build cash reserves immediately. But let's break that down. Why does a surety company care so much about my WIP schedule?
Let's imagine a hypothetical mid-sized contractor. They do great work in the field, but their back office accounting is a mess. A surety company looking at your WIP wants to see that you aren't overextended. They want to see if your estimated profit margins are actually holding up as the job progresses, or if you are facing profit fade.
Profit fade, yeah. That's a killer.
It is. If your WIP shows you have taken on 6 massive jobs, but you are currently underbilling on all of them, the surety sees a cash flow crisis waiting to happen. They will restrict your bond, meaning you can't bid on the next big IIJA project.
And what about DSO? Days sales outstanding. That just means how fast I collect the money I'm owed, right?
Yes, but let's contextualize why that matters to the bonding company. When they look at your DSO, they are evaluating your cash flow efficiency. If you are completing work, but it takes you 90 or 120 days to collect on an invoice from your clients, you are a severe cash flow risk.
Because you still have bills to pay.
Exactly. You still have to make payroll every week. You still have to buy materials. If you're acting as a bank for your clients, the surety company will not back you for a larger project. By tightening those metrics, now collecting faster, managing your WIP accurately, and holding cash rather than buying unnecessary equipment, you mathematically increase the size of the bond a surety will write for you.
It is a direct pipeline from your accounting department to your field operations. Better financials equal bigger bonds, which equal access to that remaining $249 billion pie.
Exactly. Which brings us to the logistics of getting this done before time runs out. We don't have years to fix this.
Right. We've got 208 days. The countdown is loud. Let's synthesize all of this intelligence into a concrete quarter-by-quarter timeline, a 90-day action plan for the listener to get positioned, and then the follow-through.
Starting with Q1 of 2026, which is right now.
Right now, your immediate focus must be getting pre-qualified with your local and state agencies if you aren't already. At the same time, you need to be aggressively building those relationships with the primes who are sitting on massive backlogs.
Find those big players.
Exactly. You need to be finding the tutor perennials in your region. Take their project managers to lunch, show them your pristine EMR safety record, and show them how you can solve their labor shortage. And simultaneously, your back office needs to be cleaning up those financials, lowering your DSO, and maximizing your bonding capacity.
Then we move into Q2 of 2026. This is the activation phase. You transition from internal preparation to external execution. You need to be actively bidding on these infrastructure projects. This is also the time to heavily pursue and leverage any DBE, 8A, or Hub D zone set-aside opportunities you've qualified for.
And executing that tight of a timeline requires absolute precision. You can't be guessing where the bids are dropping or when the deadlines hit. That is why our research partners at Smart Business Automator track the full funding pipeline.
It's a huge advantage.
It really is. Their insights keep contractors completely ahead of these deadlines so you aren't missing the drops. Because by the time we hit Q3 of 2026...
Q3 is the crescendo. That is when we will see the final massive wave of IIJA-funded project awards being handed out before the September 30th expiration. If you did the hard, unglamorous work in Q1 and Q2, the pre-qualifications, the financial cleanup, the prime network in Q3 is when your backlog gets filled for the next 2 years.
But then October rolls around, the 208 days are up, the IIJA is officially expired, the music stops. What then? Do we just pack up the excavators?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, survival post-IIJA requires strategy. Even if the AGC's aggressive lobbying works, even if the Basics Act or a broader reauthorization bill passes through Congress, almost every economic projection indicates it will be at significantly lower funding levels. The historic blank check era of infrastructure spending is closing.
So you absolutely cannot put all your eggs in the infrastructure basket.
Precisely. The data we are analyzing heavily advises diversifying your portfolio into alternative sectors that are showing strong, sustained growth projections for the back half of 2026 and well into 2027. We are talking about data centers, which are booming at an unprecedented rate due to AI expansion across the country.
Oh, absolutely.
We are also talking about institutional building and healthcare facilities. The smartest play is to use the IIJA funds to build your war chest today, secure your capital, so you can pivot smoothly into those growing private and institutional sectors tomorrow.
Okay, let's bring this all home. 208 days. The window's closing fast, but the roadmap we've pulled from this market intelligence is crystal clear.
Run through it one more time.
Number one, get your pre-qualifications and compliance sorted immediately. Do not wait until a bid is due. Number two, partner with the massive primes who are drowning in backlog and offer yourself as the solution to their labor shortage. Number three, leverage any and all set-asides you qualify for to legally shrink your competition pool. And number four, fix your financials today. Collect your receivables and build that bonding bridge. Do those four things and you can capture your share of the remaining billions before September 30th.
It is a phenomenal opportunity for those who are prepared to execute. But I want to leave you with a final lingering question to ponder as you look at your own company's strategic planning. If the era of historic blank check federal infrastructure spending is truly ending in exactly 208 days, how will the very definition of infrastructure change over the next decade? Are we currently rushing to capture government funds to build the concrete and steel roads of the past, while the private sector is silently, heavily investing in the digital, AI, and energy infrastructure of the future? Where does your company fit into that shift?
Wow, that is a massive question to chew on. You've got the playbook, now it's time to execute. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you on the next one.